Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about discussions or ideas, thoughts, utterances that are doing the rounds in the Western world about introducing special hate speech laws with the purpose of controlling firebrand rhetoric that comes out of the more activist mosques in the West that stir up and gin up the local population, the local Islamic population in the West in the considerable numbers. And they're able to really put a lot of people on the street very quickly, waving flags and placards and goodness knows what. So the implication, at least, of the suggestions that are coming from government officials here in Australia, but elsewhere, we need special laws to deal with this, special boutique laws. This is an absolute micro situation, and only special laws can be have to be used to control this. So let's look at this in a wider sense now. There's just there's oceans of legislation and laws on the statute books currently that are against hate speech and all sorts of things like that. But for some reason, Western governments, all the globalist controlled Western governments, choose to only very selectively apply these hate speech laws. So if you're a straight white male Christian, then they pursue you with much aggression. And the taxpayer dollars, NGOs, activist NGOs having charity status that will come after you. There's just an endless list, human rights commissions and so on. But if you're not a straight white male Christian, there's a reluctance to apply the same laws. Now, my view is that if there's a law on the books, and in Australia the claim is that laws are applied universally and everybody is equal. Everybody's equal before the law. No one is above the law, these sorts of things. Now, I think that's, in the American comment, and justice for all. And I very much, maybe because I've been brought up to believe that, I believe it very much, that everyone should be equal before the law. For example, if people blockade or barricade a synagogue to prevent worshippers from attending, if I was the dude in charge, I would call out the police or the army or whatever to allow those people free passage to assemble and to worship as they see fit. The same would be for people that want to go to a mosque. They too but the same for people that want to go to a Christian church and so on. That equality before the law, this one being the right to worship and assemble, should be absolutely equal. So when there's a bunch of white people get together to say complain about mass immigration, they're infiltrated by the authorities. There's undercover agents, there are agitators, stirrers. There's every manner of harassment is used, and the police come along to break it up, alleging that there's neo-Nazis and this sort of thing. It's amazing how these neo-Nazis just materialize out of thin air whenever there's white people getting together. Oh, look at those damn fucking fascist, Nazi, racist. But when a group of, say, Islamic activists that are far more unruly, who don't even have a permit, then the police don't seem to want to do anything. The authorities just seem to be very, very hands-off. So even the laws on the books that exist, the authorities are very selective in where they apply the law, and are very concerned about upsetting certain minorities, but absolutely don't care about others. So only straight white male Christians are really required to abide by the law, and laws are applied rigorously to them, but are let off. Just recently there was a case where a bunch of people were poaching protected species in Australia. They were catching them and killing them quite brutally, by the way. But there was one white guy in the group who was semi-retarded, but all the brown people were let off with cautions and good behaviour bonds. Only the white guy went to prison. I think that sort of thing we just seem to be seeing all the time now. So is it an issue of bringing out special laws that are needed to control, firebrand rhetoric from imams in mosques? I don't think so. There are many laws that could be applied, just the government won't apply those laws. Any globalist controlled government all over the Western world, whether it be Britain or Australia or elsewhere, is very reluctant to apply those laws. You're seeing a little bit tougher in parts of Germany and France, but not much. The real issue is this idea of two-tier policing, which is, again, all over the globalist controlled Western world now, that only white people are to be held to a legal standard and all others are allowed to wander around to do what they want. And in this case, they call for genocidal type activities in the Middle East, which seem to be rather it just seem to be a bit much. But that's allowed or permitted. Now, if a Christian were to say that about one of the descendants of Abraham in the Middle East, then they would be dealt with quickly and viciously. They'd be racist, they'd be Nazis, but when the brown people do it, then it's just blowing off a bit of steam, who cares? But because there's a bit of a public outcry about it, not only the descendants of Abraham but others that are saying, hey, this is over the top. We can't have people roaming around the streets screaming for the death of another people simply because of their race. So the politicians are trying to sort of backfill on this one. Oh, well, we're going to have special laws. See, we're doing something. We're not sitting around doing nothing. We're going to have special laws to deal with it. But the reality is, and the media don't say this, there are plenty of laws that exist currently. It's just that the authorities won't apply those laws in an even-handed manner. They'll go after Christians viciously and aggressively, but they won't go after these other groups, and that's the real issue. So until the law is applied equally and uniformly, then really there's nothing that can be done. And bringing out boutique laws, I'm not one who's in favour of boutique laws. I'm on the record of being firmly against this, whether it be boutique laws to protect women from minorities from racism, or boutique laws to protect women from rape or this or that or harassment or something. That once these boutique laws, they're completely infiltrated by activists, and then it just ignores the law and the codified law and becomes an ideological sort of place of hysteria and revenge and bitterness and anger, and never works out in I don't believe in applying due process of law to any would-be. And we see that already. And why are straight white male Christians persecuted in ways that the authorities wouldn't dare do to the minorities, in whether they be Jewish or Islamic or any Hindu or anyone else, Confucian or something, Buddhist. So I'm against this. So this idea of special boutique laws, no, just apply the laws that are there and apply them equally and apply them universally to all people. Now, this sort of, I saw an article where it was discussing, well, to uniformly and equally apply the laws to non-white people, to non-white Christians, is in fact discriminatory. Because we grew up with, the white people grew up with Judeo-Christian values and respect for the law and due legal process, codified law, all these sorts of things that make Western society the desirable places, Western countries, the places where everybody wants to come. That calm, that peace, that wealth, what once was social trust. That's why people want to come to the West, for those reasons. And yet when they come here, they try and turn it into the shithole that they came from. And they only want to cherry pick. Well, we like the wealth. We like the fact that all the white people are quiet while we can run around like crazy children. We like all that bit. But we don't want to have to fit in with your society. We want to just pick and choose the shit that we want to participate in, like taking all your welfare money and that sort of thing. So this equality for the law, the activists argue, is really a white thing. The fact that these brown and black people don't understand it and can't fit in with it, well, that's because it's racist in the first place anyway. Now, to prove the point, so there was a British, someone in Britain was commentating, to prove the point, they said, well, look at all the Islamic people and Arabs and all that sort of stuff that are in prison in Britain. You know, look at all these ones who are in prison, and you can see even though they may only represent 10% of the population, they represent 37% of the prison population. So that just goes to show how much they're discriminated against and how much the law is rigorously applied to them. So we don't need to even more rigorously apply the law equally to everybody, because that means even more of them would end up in prison. And so why should we do that? And it's been proven that prison terms for black people and Muslims and minority groups, prison terms don't really work. They don't achieve anything. They don't rehabilitate them. They don't change their behavior. If anything, it makes them worse. So why put them in prison when it's clearly not a deterrent? They don't see it as a deterrent, and they don't perceive it as they perceive they've been victims of some form of injustice based on their own culture and way of looking at the world. So why even do it? Why not just let them run riot? They'll burn off a bit of steam. Okay, maybe they'll murder a few people. Maybe they'll torture a whole suburb or trash a whole shopping strip. But look, hey, your insurance will cover that. Who cares? And then we don't have to put them in prison, so that's good. Now, I would look at that and say, well, then why are we having those people as migrants? Why are we having them at all? If they're unable to behave, if they're unable to comply with the law and so on, then why would we want them as why? And if indeed they do break the law, to the extent they are, then why not just deport them and their families? Why keep them all here? So there are a whole lot of arguments to and from, but coming back to the original thing, should boutique laws be created to silence alleged firebrands in mosques, then just apply all laws that are there. If you vigorously go after the Christian guy for misgendering somebody, then just as vigorously go after, for hate speech, just as vigorously go after the guys in the mosque or wherever they are. Vigorously go after everyone with the same zeal and aggression that you do of the straight white Christian guy. So now, there's yet another dimension to this. There's probably, and I'll do another video on this aspect of it, is that the globalists perceive the biggest threat to their power is organised straight white males. That is the biggest threat to their power. Their attempt to force this globalisation project on everybody against their will, without their consent, without a vote, without their agreement. Forcing this globalist project on everybody. The only people that will resist that and are capable of resisting it are straight white male, organised straight white males. That's the threat. The Islamic hordes and these they are not seen as a threat to the power of the globalists. So they can afford to go, we don't really care about them. I'm sure they're a pain in the ass, but we kind of don't care. They're not a threat to our power. Those straight white male Christians are, and we just have to invent crimes that they're supposed to commit, like they're Nazis and everything. We just have to invent this, and then we can use that bullshit and those lies to go after them, because they are the potential threat, not the others. And that also is something that gets baked into the pie here, and something we all need to be aware of. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.